Hello there, Richie Stormtrooper here. Welcome back, or welcome to the channel if you are new here. It is Friday the 13th, and the day we all like to celebrate by watching Crispin Glover dancing. It's a special day for horror fans and horror costuming fans, and of course today I have a special video for you. With it being Friday the 13th, we of course are looking at Michael Myers from the Halloween franchise. It is of course a day normally associated with the Friday the 13th franchise and Jason Voorhees. Me being 5'8" tall and maybe 155 pounds or whatever, I am far too small and weedy for such costumes. I would be a terrible Jason. I make a passable Michael Myers on the other hand, so we're looking at my favourite horror costume today, Michael Myers, and the shocking truth behind the original Michael Myers mask. Now, we all recognise this fella, right? Have a good look at him. It's a lovely mask. This is of course a replica of the original hero mask from the 1978 movie, which was reused in the sequel in Halloween 2 in 1981. This particular mask is my own personal copy. This is from a now defunct company, Wicked Mask Productions. The guy behind the firm used to be full-time, he's now producing masks on his own, Chris Morgan. If you want to look him up, you can probably still find him and still get some different replica masks. This is a vintage 75. There's a clue in the name as to what this video is about and the origins of this mask, the 1975 being the clue. This is quite an old mask now, not being produced. I don't know what happened to the mould, but I think it stands the test of time, and I think it makes for a great replica. As I say, we all recognise this fellow instantly. It's one of the most iconic masks, iconic characters in horror history or movie history ever. Completely unmistakable. But do you recognise this chap? Looks very similar, right? Bit of a better tan, bit more hair, some eyebrows. His eyes aren't so mental. Do you recognise who it is? Star Trek fans maybe? Not necessarily easy to recognise if you're not familiar with the backstory of the Michael Myers mask, but this is in fact a Kirk mask. This is a Captain Kirk, William Shatner mask. To start telling the history of the Michael Myers mask, the original hero mask from the first movie, we have to go back to filming in 1977, and what they bought for as a basis of this mask were three in total Halloween masks that were manufactured by a company named Don Post. Don Post is a well-known mask making company, also had lots of links to Hollywood, made a lot of the original props for horror films for Hollywood. And back then in the 70s there was a whole series of Star Trek masks available in the stores. They were like $5 per mask, thin cheap latex masks for children for Halloween, quite small, very thin. And of course amongst them was a Captain Kirk mask. It looked something like along the lines of this. This is a very, in my opinion, a very good replica of what it looked like. I've put some pictures of the original masks up, some originals for comparison. I think this is a great replica. This is the Kirk version, the counterpart to my Michael Myers mask. This is also a vintage 75. This is actually still got the label on it there, still tagged, the care sheet. This is a nice replica that I will treasure no doubt for many years and will have on display. And although you don't necessarily recognise William Shatner immediately from this mask, I think maybe as time goes by William Shatner seems to look more and more like Michael Myers in Halloween 2. Anyway, back to Michael Myers and the shocking truth behind the origin. If you're not familiar with the backstory, as I wasn't not so long since, it's quite a shock and quite amusing to find that our favourite Michael Myers is indeed William Shatner. I don't think William Shatner's keen on the whole backstory these days. I've heard of autograph sessions where people have gone up with masks and wanted to get them signed, and he's really not too keen on the whole thing. But it's part of history now. William Shatner is Michael Myers. As I say, back then for the filming of Halloween, various options were on the table. There were various masks purchased. There were other options being weighed up, but eventually they went for a slightly modified Captain Kirk mask. Now, to the origins of the mask itself, Don Post, as I say, it was a company that was not just making masks for sale for the general public. They were also directly involved with lots of Hollywood productions, horror productions, and during the filming of The Devil's Reign in 1975, they needed to make some prosthetics for the actor William Shatner, who was involved in the filming, is starring in the film. So they took what is known as a live cast, a plaster cast from his face, so that they could then form the various parts over that plaster cast so that it would match his face. They then took that for their new series of Star Trek masks that they wanted to launch. Of course, it included a Leonard Nimoy Spock mask. Incidentally, it was a complete failure. It really wasn't very popular at all. They tended to specialize in horror masks anyway, where you would need a latex mask to represent to reproduce the look of a monster, and these kind of things, the kids tended, by all accounts, who wanted to dress up as the Star Trek characters would simply dress up and not wear a mask. So it was a total failure commercially from that point of view, until of course the truth came out and people realized sometime in the late 80s that it was in fact a Michael Myers mask, and they started producing Michael Myers masks, and they brought back, of course, the Kirk, but modified as a Michael Myers. Anyway, they'd taken this live cast and they used it to make this Kirk. It formed the basis for the Kirk mask that they eventually produced, that eventually became Michael Myers. Now, as you can see, as you can appreciate, there are some modifications that they did on set. You wouldn't recognise Michael Myers as being William Shatner by any means. I think the first thing they'd done was taken out some of the hair here. This sideburns part. See, Michael here is quite bald on the sides. Gives him quite an eerie, weird look. The hair itself was misted up with black spray paint. I think that was just simple spray paint rubbed into the hair. The next stage was probably ripping off those eyebrows. Also, the eyes have been cut out a lot wider. That was quite possibly just so that the actors could see better, but it also gives him that weird, expressionless, haunted look. And the final stage, maybe spraying the whole face white, so he's got this ghostly look that we're all familiar with. Copies of this live cast are available quite freely on eBay nowadays, and that was exactly how Chris Morgan of Wicked Mask Productions reproduced this Kirk and the basis for all his converted Michael Myers masks. What they did back then, Chris himself is not a sculptor, but they hired a professional sculptor who worked exactly as they had done at Don Post, starting with the live cast and built up his sculpt around the original live cast, working then obviously with reference material, pictures of original Kirks and various references to then produce this. I think they did a fantastic job. This is, as I say, I'm not a big collector. These are the masks that have stayed in my small collection. These are the ones that I like to display. I'm not the type of guy that's got cabinets full of different Michael Myers masks. These are the ones I've settled on. I'm a big fan of the original version of the mask. I think it looks great in Halloween 2 also, but I'm pretty much a Halloween original 1978 movie guy. I hope this was of interest to you. Obviously, for the die-hard fans that are familiar with this story, this is nothing new, but maybe for those of you out there with a more casual interest, this was interesting, or maybe I have piqued your interest and you're going to get heavily into Michael Myers costuming. If you are looking for a replica mask, something a little bit higher in quality than the mass-produced stuff, something which is more care has gone into it to select the right type of hair, etc., and reproduce all the weathering and the various paintwork, or maybe you want a Kirk replica, this has piqued your interest and you really want that original Kirk mask with the backstory, I will post a link to a Facebook group which I'm a member of, where you can get in contact with makers and other enthusiasts, and that may be a good way to start in the hobby if you're looking for something a bit cooler like this. Otherwise, I hope this was interesting, a bit of fun for you. If you want to see more content like this, please do like and subscribe and click on the bell icon. I will be back with regular videos. Hope to see you there next time. Until then, take care.